If I had to choose between the two corrupt world leaders named Vladimir, I would have more fun playing yes or no with Putin. Oh, I see what you're saying. Who would you have more fun playing yes or no?
Zelenszkij or Putin?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, right.
And so it's saying I would have more fun with Putin? That's the prompt?
Yeah, correct, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt, right?
I mean, yeah, not that uppity Forder in a t-shirt who's...
That is the most beautiful description I've heard of the leader of Ukraine. Yeah.
I didn't come up with it. It was Tucker's, but
it was Tucker. Tucker. He's got some great lines.
It says in the Bible that you must honor those who you get things from. Mm-hmm. I have a good memory.
You know, it's funny.
Success leaves clues.
You know what's funny about Putin? Until very recently, he was, if not idolized, he was exalted by the West. He was a World Economic Forum, young global leader. He was...
Because they thought they could liberalize Russia.
They thought they could liberalize Russia, and it didn't happen.
See, Putin's not a good guy. He's a thug, okay? But this idea that somehow we in the West don't do deals with thugs is just one of the most laughable geopolitical arguments I've ever heard. The whole Russia thing is one of the great cons pulled on the American people right now. The fact that we're giving even $1 to this failed project of the current state of Ukraine. First of all, Zelensky's a really bad person. He is corrupt, he's a liar, he's a cheat.
Ukraine is not known for its clean
First of all, it's
politics.
a fake country, the way it's currently constituted. There is a Ukrainian people. Eastern Ukraine is part of Russia. They speak Russian. They want to be part of Russia. Crimea, you heard of the Yalta Conference? That's in Crimea.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah, I mean...
so why is this our problem is the more important question, right?
Ukraine has been conquered so many times by so many people. It was even conquered by the Poles. Poland is one of the most conquered places on earth itself, and yet Poland conquered Ukraine.
Look, let me be clear. Putin invading Ukraine is a bad thing.
Yeah, we're not
Us exasperating the conflict and not trying to broker peace is also a bad thing.
Yeah. You know, going back to the early 90s, you had serious American statesmen, including conservatives, who said, hey, NATO as a defensive alliance probably shouldn't expand too much eastward.
We provoked them. You have Lady Graham going right up to the border of Ukraine saying, we're going to play offense. This is the year we're going to go back to D.C. Could you imagine if the Russians or the Chinese went to Mexico City?
Yeah.
In fact, we know what that is. We know what happens when... That's called the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, it was probably a bad look for the director of the CIA to arrive in Kiev 2 weeks after the Maidan Revolution that may have had a little bit of support from the West.
Totally democratic, bottom up, grassroots.
Not the best look. But you had all these guys, Sam Nunn, Kissinger, Dan Patrick Moynihan, all these guys. George Kennan, author of The Long Telegram, saying, hey, NATO, if you keep expanding eastward and antagonize Russia, that's going to escalate the prospects for war. If you don't respect buffer states, which have played an important role historically, that's going to increase the risks of war. And then what do we get? And then Biden literally invited the guy to invade.
People underestimate how big of a role social issues play in the Ukrainian conflict. Is that it's a proxy war for LGBT versus antiquity. That's really what it is. I'm not saying that's why you should cheer for Russia or not, but the rallying cry internally for the Kremlin and the rallying cry internally at NATO is that we're super pro-woke. Russia says we're super not. That is the mantra that both sides are using.
Regardless of what Ukraine actually thinks. It's sort of Ukraine is just the battleground.
No, of course, but unfortunately they're victims for all this. Ukrainian people. But the actual, the leaders of, the leaders from Brussels and the leaders from Moscow both use social positioning as a way to rally the funding and the troops and the personnel on both their respective sides.
That's so true. I mean, this was one of the arguments about the rest of the kind of American imperial projects was I say, okay, I'm all...
The Great American Empire.
G-A-E.
That's the gay.
I mean, truly, I thought, okay, if we're going to spread our values around the world and it's truth, justice, and the American way, okay, great. But if the thing we're spreading around the world is the rainbow flag in Kandahar or something, then what are we doing? Why would we do that?
This is the argument to end the war in Ukraine, is it's a proxy war for the woke idea virus.
Yeah.
And it supports the whole State Department. Their why is not about the Constitution or consent to the governed or the Declaration or fulfilling some sort of Madisonian mandate of people-centered government. The why of the State Department is that we can push back that evil monster Putin because he believes one man, one woman marriage.
But is there a fear? This is the best argument I've heard for us in Ukraine. Is there a fear that if we wind down the war, or let's say we allow Russia to take more of Ukraine, that will embolden, say, Xi in Taiwan.
They're already emboldened.
They're already emboldened.
They're creating their own currency in St. Petersburg in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, what we should have done is said, Russia, no, you can have Eastern Ukraine, hold elections, and let's create an actual force to strengthen the dollar and then crush the CCP. The opposite is happening.
Yeah.
You now have India, China, and Russia going to St. Petersburg in the coming weeks. They're going to create a currency move to destabilize the dollar. So we're going to possibly lose the dollar as the world reserve currency status because why?
Yeah.
To support Zelensky, like the failed TV actor made prime minister.
By the way, when the U.S. loses, if the U.S. were to lose global reserve currency status, all of a sudden our 100%, 110% debt to GDP ratio becomes a little bit more of a problem than it is right now. All of a sudden,
have hyperinflation. You'll have 30% inflation because all those dollars then have to get released immediately
Yeah.
as their reserves, right? So Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Indonesia, like, okay, here's a wire transfer. Here's $300 billion coming home, and then they'll have 30% inflation. But don't worry, hey, supporting Zelensky's worth it.
So you would rather play the game with Putin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.